Welcome, everyone, to the Great Womb Awakening 3, where women across the globe are harvesting the wisdom of their womb and the power of their shamanic female bodies to create global change. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute, and it is always my great delight to be here with Kaylin Castell. Welcome, Kaylin. So glad you're here and you're going to
I'm
share.
so happy to be here with you, Kathy, and everybody who's viewing this whenever they're viewing this.
Yes. So Kaylin is the founder of Venus Alchemy, My Star Alchemy, and the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. In addition to writing monthly celestial timings for 25 years, she enjoys sharing these mysteries through personal readings and teaching, both online and in-person events, changing lives and perspectives from the visionary understanding that we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. And so today she is going to talk to us about the Great Womb Awakening 2023, looking to the future. And you have so many juicy tidbits. I don't know where to start, but the main one is the one I don't understand or know about, and I don't know that our listeners will. Talk to us about Sedna. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's supposedly it's moving into Gemini on the 15th. What does that mean? Why is it important?
So Sedna is the perfect place to start.
Of course.
And interestingly, I got introduced to her 10 years ago around my birthday when I was talking to another astrologer, and she said, "Oh, you have Sedna conjunct your Venus." And I was like, "I do? Whoa, that's so cool." Now, I don't really know a lot about Sedna, or I didn't know. I know a little more now. I didn't know a lot about Sedna then, but I didn't have an experience with a shaman in Sedona who had been taught the story of Sedna and how it was important to honor her, and that he was guided to live in Sedona because it's only one letter off from Sedna.
Wow.
I know. That was, and so that blew my mind. So he would do these ceremonies, he'd tell the story, we'd do this honoring of Sedna. So that's my biggest experience of Sedna. So when I was told that I had Sedna conjunct my Venus, I was like, whoa, I don't know what that means, but wow.
Mm-hmm.
This Sedna was discovered in 2003, 20 years ago, and has been in, I forget, I think it was maybe 1965. I don't know. It's been in Taurus for quite a while, and is about to move into Gemini. So by the time this is released, it was probably already going to have moved into Gemini, but it's moving into Gemini June 15th. Here's something that's really remarkable about Sedna. She has 11,500 year orbit.
Wow.
Around the sun. Yeah. That means that the last time Sedna entered Gemini was about 11,500 years ago. Give or take a few years here or there, but whatever. It's been a while. It's been a really long time, and we have no idea whatever that is. So this is a dwarf planet way out on the outer rim of our solar system. And it has a very elliptical orbit, meaning that there's times she's really far away, and probably the reason she wasn't discovered until 2003, she's coming in for her closest approach to the sun, and that's going to be happening in 2040, 2030, I forgot. I wrote it down somewhere. I don't remember where I wrote it down. So anyway, so her movement into Gemini is a really big deal. Let me tell the story of Sedna so we can get a sense of why we want to have a new way of telling her story. And Gemini is all about how we tell the new stories.
Right.
So I've read dozens of versions of this story, so I'm just going to kind of condense it down into a version and just know that there's other ways that the story is told, but sometimes the essence of it is pretty much the same. So that's the important thing. So Sedna is a young woman in an Inuit tribe in Alaska. So Sedna comes from the Alaska tradition, or Inuit tradition. And she is kind of like not wanting to marry anybody, you know, all the people that come, and her father finally says, the next person that comes, you have to marry. She's been just being kind of stubborn and not wanting to choose somebody, which we could probably understand because, you know, and it was important, and the needs of the tribe were going to be served by her marrying somebody that could help the tribe out in some way. So this person, more like being, what they didn't know, shows up looking like a man, and wants to marry her, and so she winds up having to marry him, and he takes her away to where he lives, and it turns out he's a raven.
Wow.
And he lives on some rock in the middle of the water, and you know, there's nobody there, and she's lonely, and some of the stories are there's nothing there, she's cold, she's hungry, she's, you know, he brings her fish, something like that. But it sounds like a miserable life anyway. And some stories she's living in a place like a palace or some kind of something, but still lonely and miserable. And she starts to wail and cry for her father to come rescue her because she's so miserable. So he hears her and finally comes and, you know, gets in his kayak and goes and gets her. And they're on their way back to their tribe, and the raven comes along, sees them, and starts churning up the waters. And Dad gets afraid that, oh my God, I'm going down. I got to. So he tosses Sedna overboard. And she tries to grab onto the side of the boat, and he like whacks her fingers, and she's so cold, her fingers are frozen, so her fingers fall off, and she falls to the bottom of the ocean. This sounds like a terrible story.
Yes, it does. Please
But I know, but out of her broken fingers come the sea creatures. And you know, and also I feel like this story describes the betrayal of the feminine, the masculine betrayal of the feminine, and
Yes.
not really valuing her, and also her anger and rage. She was furious. And so she sinks down to the bottom, and it's through her grief and through her, you know, how, and in a way we could say it's like it's the description of sinking into the unconscious, like the feminine, how the divine feminine has just been at the bottom of the ocean. It's like not conscious, not very present, not very, you know, that's definitely changing, but that seems like that's what the story is telling us, how that happened. But she still managed to give birth to the sea creatures.
Right.
They kept her company. And that sort of thing. So, you know, the divine feminine, even in her worst, most, I don't know, torturous state of being, still giving birth to something. I just find this fascinating. So anyway, the story of Sedna, and the shamans in certain traditions are taught to go and visit her and honor her and give her respect, because you know, she doesn't like it when we're messing with the earth and we're messing with the oceans and messing with the waters. And so we need to give her respect and honor her, and then she can help us maybe clean up the mess we've made.
Right. So her moving into Gemini, I mean, it's such a huge deal that it happens in our lifetime, but that is symbolic of us being able to change the story then?
Yeah. And so so I'm going to get to that in a minute. I think it was 1856 or something like that, in the 1800s, Sedna moved into the sign of Aries. So most people, it was in the sign of Aries for 100 years. And then I think it was at 65, it moved into Taurus. And so it's getting shorter and shorter in its time and signs, because it's getting closer and closer to the perihelion, or the inner swing around the sun. And so it means it's closer to the earth. So it's going through the signs more quickly. So most people alive today will have Sedna in Aries or Taurus. And then starting on June 15th, if you were born after June 15th, 2020 or 2023, then you'll have Sedna.
Right? Yeah.
But what's amazing about it is, and it can be in a degree for many years. So if we think about, what is it, it's been almost 50 years, 60 years, almost 60 years since Sedna went into Taurus in 65. So it's many years in a similar part of the sky. Right now, Sedna is with the Pleiades. It's the Pleiades are, a group of stars that cover 29 degrees Taurus and 0 degrees Gemini. So and that can only happen every 26,000 years. We're looking at 11,500 years so anyway, it may have been that this was true when she was going to Gemini the last time, that it would have been aligned with this star, but for sure we know it's happening now. Right. And the Pleiades are magical stars it's a magical asterism that the ancient alchemists work with whenever a planet was close to that star. Now, of course, we can't see Sedna, and they wouldn't have known, even if it's like we couldn't go out and look in the sky. But if we are looking at the Pleiades, which are currently with the sun, they won't be coming back into the morning sky until July, I think, but late July or early August, something like that. Anyway, so we're not seeing them at this time of the year, but when they do come back into the sky and you look at the Pleiades, you can know that Sedna's right there.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. And so they made their amulets, their talismans, their elixirs, their magical potions, things that they were doing their alchemy around. They did it when there were planets close that they to the Pleiades or any of the magical Bohemian magical stars. So Sedna is going to be here. It has been here already, probably a good, I don't know, maybe close to 10 or 20 years. And because it's moving very slowly, it'll be May of 2033, so 10 years from now, before it moves past the 6-degree mark. And it's the 6-degree mark that the alchemists used so Sedna's been there for a while within the 6-degree mark. It's exact right now as it's moving into Gemini with the Pleiades. It's been exact for a while, and it'll be exact for another year or two with the Pleiades. So we have this energy, and the Pleiades, some ancient cultures considered the Pleiades to be their home, where they come from. A lot of people will relate to that, and that there's a central sun in the Pleiades. I think it's called Alcyone. That's where there's a library that has all the codes of all the things, all the ancient knowing that we can tune into. That's there. Makes me think of your background a little bit. The right. The star temple of the Pleiades. And so Sedna is then transmitting directly to us from that place. And what is it? What's the new story? Gemini is all about being the storyteller. How do we tell the stories that define the time that we're in? Yeah. And I've been working with this for quite a while. It's like we can look at all the old stories and see, well, either we stop telling them or we tell them in a new way, or we're creating new stories. What's the new story? And if we think about the new story for the feminine and the masculine and how it's working together, and with the two working together, then we can give birth to the new earth. We can give birth to a new way of being. We can give birth to something amazing that we haven't maybe even thought of yet or imagined yet. Or maybe we've imagined, but we didn't know was possible yet.
And it is possible. Yeah. So it feels to me like a very magical, potent time to do ceremony, to do alchemy, all of that. And it sounds like it's supported by that divine feminine energy too. That's amazing. You're right. That was the place to be.
She's rising up into our awareness. She's becoming more conscious. And we think about Gemini is an air sign. It's the mental realms. It's what we're conscious and aware of. We're becoming more conscious of her now in a new way, and it will help create the story that is healing. And it, has the possibility of not only healing our understanding of her, of Sedna, but of the earth herself.
Yeah. for
how,
sure.
I mean, if you think about that story where it's the masculine principle that's beating her and, you know, throwing her overboard and, you know, trying to get rid of her, whatever that is, that's essentially what's happened to the feminine in
Exactly.
patriarchy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a brilliant telling in that
It
regard.
is. It is. And so perfect for this summit. That's awesome. So there's a lot of other big players out there that are moving around. So Saturn went into Pisces or is in
Yes,
how does
yes.
that show up for everyone? What's that going to do?
So it went
What's
into
it
Pisces.
doing?
Yeah, what's it doing? It went into Pisces in March. It's going to be there for 2.5 years. I think it's going retrograde on soon, and then it just went retrograde, and then it's going back into Capricorn on June 11th. So we're going to have that and then it'll go back into Aquarius in January of 2024. So we're going to have another round of Pluto in Capricorn coming up pretty quick. I mean,
So
by the
Pluto
time,
and Saturn in Capricorn?
so
Ooh
Pluto,
la
no,
la.
Saturn. So I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Saturn is in Pisces, but Pluto's going back into Capricorn on June
Okay.
11th. Pluto
Okay.
went into Aquarius at the end of March. I got
Mhm.
myself confused there. Sorry about that.
That's
But
okay.
Saturn in Pisces, and this is, I feel, also kind of connects with the whole Sedna story, because it's the vast ocean of compassion, the oceans of our feelings, the ocean, you know, the oceanic realm that
Mhm.
that Pisces represents, that mystical, universal compassion and place of expanded states of consciousness that we find in the dream time, that
Mhm.
it's not limited in this reality. But Saturn's all about structure,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's all about form. So it's like Saturn wants to know, how do we bring this into some kind of form? It's like we
Mhm.
got all this expansive out there energy,
Mhm.
and especially if we think about the compassion and how do we help and heal, Pisces really wants to know how to help and heal first, ideally themselves, so they tend to
Mhm.
do it for others first, and
Mhm.
get themselves worn out and exhausted as a result. but
Mhm.
but uh, if we really understood how to work Saturn and Pisces, we would get that we have to take care of ourselves first, and then we can take care of others. I was just hearing somebody talking about two different kinds of being rich or wealthy. One is competitive, like we're out there competing with other people to try to become wealthy and maybe have power over others and that kind of thing. And the other is creative or co-creative. How do we do it together? And how is what we're doing helping to not only enrich our own life, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, whatever, it's not going to be good for us in the end. But as we enrich our own selves, then we're enriching everybody else. I think that's very much what Saturn and Pisces is most interested in.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that just walks hand in hand with Sedna. So
Yes.
then talk to us about the Pluto thing, because Pluto's in Aquarius right now, right?
Mhm. Well,
How
as you and I are speaking, yes,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
in a,
But it's
but
by the time it airs, it's going to be
it will
somewhere.
have gone back, it'll retrograded back into
Mhm.
Capricorn. And so there's a couple of things really important about this. One is that it is kind of like, okay, one more chance at, how are we putting the spotlight on the shadow of our current cultural structure, form,
Mhm.
the ways we do things politically, from the education standpoint, from economic standpoint, from, all the different ways that we have created our current structure. And what with all the corruption
Mhm.
keeps coming up to be, seen, and hopefully people will get that it's like, now we can make a better choice. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be like this,
Mhm. Mhm.
with awareness. So like if it's been hidden and we haven't seen it, but it's now becoming just so much more apparent.
Mhm.
And so Capricorn will continue, Pluto and Capricorn will continue to show a light or shine a light on that.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that's really, truly remarkable about this time, and I think I spoke about this the last time you and I talked,
Mhm.
is the
Mhm.
fact that on July 17th, Pluto or the nodes are moving into Aries Scorpio for the first time in 18 and a half years. And when they move into a sign, they're moving into the end of the sign, 29 degrees. So it's 29 degrees Aries, 29 degrees Libra, and Pluto's at 29 degrees Capricorn in an exact square to
Wow.
both. And I looked it up and I went back, and this hasn't probably happened in thousands of years, but back in 1770, it was Pluto was in Capricorn and it squared the nodes, but the north node was in Libra and the south node was in Aries. And here's the thing, we're looking at a 248-year cycle Pluto and an 18-and-a-half-year cycle the nodes. So for Pluto to square the nodes in these signs, it'll square the nodes more often than that, but not in these signs.
Mm-hmm. And exactly like that. Wow.
And exactly like that. And one of the first, so they're within minutes when it comes in on July 17th. On July 22nd, the Magdalene feast day, it's exact. And then it stays like exact for quite a while.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like, whoa. So if we think about the nodes as being south node representing where we're coming from and the north node representing where we're going, and Pluto representing what's in the way, what's from the past holding us back from moving towards our future, and what are the limiting beliefs we have that maybe keep us from going to our true divine destiny, what we're really here for. What are we afraid of? What are the limiting beliefs that hold us back? What's our upper limit? Right? Like I can get so far and then what? So I start freaking out, that kind of thing. That happens to all of us. So Pluto's here to basically help transmute and transform those limiting experiences so that we can move more fully towards our destiny. And I think about Aries, North Node in Aries, it's about restoring justice. It's about how do we stand for what's true, stand for what's right, stand for the common good, stand for the earth herself, stand for each other, not being in the what I call shame, blame, and complain or judgment phase.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of people in the culture now are that's where they're coming from. And it's because it's easier to project what it is we're afraid of or what we're judging within ourselves onto somebody else. And so our opportunity is to look at those things and say, oh, wait, if I'm judging, maybe that's in me. If I'm judging that person out there or this situation or whatever it is, maybe it's within me.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do I need to move?
Right. And how can I take responsibility for that and transform it? Because that's what Pluto is, why Pluto shines the light on these shadowy places, is so they can be transmuted and transformed. And what's also fascinating about this is staying in place. The Pluto will square the nodes within 5 degrees. Well, when close, very close for within weeks, and then within 5 degrees until mid-December. So we'll be completing out this year, and it goes beyond 10 degrees next year, but still.
Right.
Oh my gosh. How often does this ever happen?
Right. And I love how you always speak into the fact that everything that is on the bottom of I was thinking about this when you were speaking, all the things of the Statue of Liberty, how we haven't really done any of them. And this could be the opportunity for us to step up.
Yeah. And I mean, in the United States, not only the Statue of Liberty, but also the Declaration of Independence, that everyone has the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Everybody, not certain genders, not certain races, not certain gender identifications or whatever it might be. Every human being is an expression of the divine. It cannot be anything less than that. And everyone has that right to be able to determine their own way. And it's like so many things happening now. It's like the shadow part of this is like, oh, let's determine for you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
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 So you also mentioned that something about a lunar standstill. What does that mean? And what does it mean for, because if ever we needed shining ones, we need them now. And,
Yes.
and you mentioned that the shining ones will be walking through us. What does that mean?
um, are awakening within us, because I feel like we're the shining ones. So
I do too.
I've shared about the lunar standstill before, and I on my free offer page, I'll put a link. Well, I'll put the video that goes into more detail, because this is pretty amazing what's happening with the lunar standstill. It's a 19-year moon cycle. So the moon every 19 years comes back to a starting place with the sun, synodic return at the 19-year birthday, or, so there's a nodal return along with, anyway, so we are in the 19-year lunar standstill coming to its exact point, and that'll be in 2025, but we're getting closer and closer to that. So what's happening right now is that anytime the moon is in Gemini, Cancer, or Sagittarius, Capricorn, it's going outside the boundaries of the sun, and it's acting like a wild card. And we know when the lunar standstill is happening, when the nodes are in Taurus, Scorpio, Aries, Libra, Pisces, Virgo. For sure, we're in the lunar standstill time. And the center point of that, at least, maybe 3 years leading up to the exact point, maybe 3 years after the exact point, is when the North Node reaches 0 Aries. So one of the things I find fascinating and amazing, and again, thank you, mysteries,
Right?
is that the North Node's moving into Aries, square Pluto, activating so much possibility and transformation that and maybe transmuting everything that's been holding us back as a culture. And then we'll get to that 0 Aries point in January of 2025, when we know that the moon, and I shared this in one of the videos I did for you earlier, where the moon, when it's in its out of bounds place, it drops so far below the ecliptic, it passes directly over Galactic Center. And when it's over, and the moon's a transmitter, so it's transmitting directly from the center of the galaxy, literally crossing over it from the Earth's perspective, when it's in those signs, when it's in Capricorn,
Right.
Sag Capricorn. And this can only happen in this time frame that we're in now. So and that's the Galactic Womb. That's where all of this comes from, is from the center of that black hole.
Right?
There might be a better name for it than black hole, but that's what they call it.
Yeah.
I like Galactic Womb. I like, or, we also call it Galactic Center, center of our galaxy, where everything originates and moves from.
Yeah.
So in terms of the galactic cosmic womb awakening, we have these things going on that are happening monthly. Well as these other larger things that only happen occasionally, but are still happening for many months at a time, going on. And it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah,
I'm just
it is.
it blows my mind.
It's dawning on me, because the last little question I have in here is that there's a new Venus cycle in Leo, and you did a presentation at some point about Leo, where you compared all of the attributes of Leo to Mary Magdalene. And so all of this stuff is happening on Mary Magdalene's feast day. And now Venus is yet in Leo again. Can you speak into that just a little bit?
I will, but I want to come back, because I realize I forgot to say something about the lunar standstill.
Sure. Yeah.
And so one of the things that happens is when the moon gets into these extremes and places that the sun can never go, so it's outside our ordinary reality. In Scotland, it's far enough north that when the moon rises, it especially in the Capricorn, full moon, or the late Sagittarius or early Capricorn full moon, it literally walks along the land. It's like it doesn't rise up and go down. It rises up and just kind of goes across. And there's a mountain there that is called Kaliach. Old woman of the Moors is how they refer to her, but I think of her as the goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily an old woman. And she has, as a mountain, she has a pregnant belly, and the moon will disappear into that pregnant belly and then reappear later. So this is something that happens in this lunar standstill, and the rest of the time this does not happen. They built standing stone circles specifically to track this cycle, and they built it in such a way that when the moon is doing that, it looks like it's rolling right through the stone circle. That's like how important it was to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they also had a saying, when the moon walks the land at the calling of the cuckoo, the shining ones will return.
Whoa. That
And
just gives me chills.
doesn't it?
It's like, wow.
When the moon walks the land. So I was there. We were doing a ceremony. I was saying something, and somebody's like, I just heard a cuckoo. And I was like, oh my God, we're the shining ones. That energy is returning through us. That's what we get out of this. It's not like looking for something out here. It's happening from the inside out. It's coming from within us. So we have this time that is with, you know, Pluto activating the nodes, with Sedna going into Gemini for the first time in 11,000 plus years, with, you know, all those things. Plus, I'm going to talk about the Venus thing in just a minute. All this is like just, you know, powerful. Like, we don't even necessarily know how to describe what it means. We just need to tune into and see what it means for us.
Thank
and
you.
to recognize that there are incredible things happening. And if we're paying attention, it'll have messages for us.
Yeah, for
If
sure.
we're tuning in, if we're asking, because we're being informed by the mysteries, but we're also informing them. So,
Right? Yeah.
So Venus is going retrograde on July 22nd, Mary Magdalene's feast day, in Leo. She actually goes into Leo shortly, probably before this airs. She'll be in Leo by the time this airs, and she'll be there until October because of the retrograde. And Venus is retrograde for about 40 days. And then she rises up as morning star during her retrograde and starts a new Venus cycle that lasts about 18 and a half, 19 months. And going through her whole initiation of, you know, I guess whatever's in the way of her being, when it's in Leo, being the sovereign queen or empress.
Right.
Or somebody who is, you know, it's not like needs outside validation, gets it from the inside out, knows that they are standing in their strength and power, and they're here to shine their light, which comes back to the shining ones. So, you know, it's all about how you shine your light can inspire others to shine theirs. It's not about you helping them to do it. It's not about you telling them to do it. It's not about you encouraging them to do it necessarily. I mean, you can encourage, but as long as you're not attached.
Right.
People can make their own choices and so on. But as Marianne Williamson said in her book, A Return to Love, our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We are all, I'm not going to say this exactly right, but we are all children of God, and we're all to shine as children do. So our playing small does not serve anyone. When we can allow our own light to shine, it inspires others to do the same. And that's how we change the world.
Yes.
And so, shining ones returning. I know. Oh my gosh. Wow. Just speaking into it, I feel it in my whole body. Just imagining that it's already happening because we've been calling it forth through our conversation.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, Kaylin, always, 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 you never disappoint. And you've given us so many things to think about. But if we could sum it up, it's probably keep shining, shine your light, live your truth. I mean, all that you've brought forth, it just brings the emotion with it. There's so much support for all of us. So I'm very, very appreciative that you were able to do it in such a concise and beautiful way, as always. So thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I just want to say, it makes me think of that song, This Little Light of Mine. I'm going to let it shine.
Yep. Yep. That's what we got to do. So
That's right.
you have a free gift on your page, and basically it is more information that
Yeah,
people
so
can
some of the things that I talked about will go into more detail.
really.
People that like that, you don't have to sign up for my email list to get to the free page. Just go see what you want. If you like it and you want to be on my email list, please sign up for it if you want that. But if you don't want that, not a requirement.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaylin. As always, it's a joy. Thank you so, so much.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.